Hello, this is Danny Raymond, the voice behind Ray's Guide. For the Star Citizen backer, there are 5 seasons to the year: winter, spring, summer, fall, and fleet replanning. And just like the Swallows returning to Capistrano heralds spring, the starting of the ship Showdown heralds the imminent arrival of the IAE and the peak of fleet replanning season, which begins in earnest with the new ships teased in just a few weeks at CitizenCon. Anyway, the main function of fleet replanning season is to take a sober look at all the ships in your fleet that you paid for and which are getting you good enough value for your money. And then there are those that aren't. Well, those get melted or upgraded and possibly added to the timetable of ships that you will someday buy with in-game earned currency. For those who do not understand the difference, melting means returning the ship for store credit to spend on something else, and upgrading is using the value of the ship as a starting point for buying a more expensive ship. The main reason that you would do one over the other is if your original ship has lifetime insurance rather than the 10-year insurance, since upgrading preserves insurance. But why, you might wonder, am I suggesting in the title that this particular fleet planning week you should be giving attention to whether your dropships should be kept? First, what do I mean by a dropship? A dropship is a purpose-built ship for delivering and evacuating combat troops and or vehicles to or from a war zone. Currently on the ship matrix, this would include the Vanguard Hoplite, Valkyrie, Prowler, Cutlass Steel, and Hercules A2. Sort of in the same category is Legionnaire, but it is meant for direct boarding of ships and not just delivery into a war zone. This is different than a troop transport, which is used to bring troops in vehicles from one deployment to another, but is unsuited to delivering them to the battle zone itself. For example, the C-17 Globemaster is a troop transport, even though it is occasionally used to drop paratroopers. The closest thing to a Star Citizen dropship would be the CH-53 Super Stallion or the V-22 Osprey. So, what is different this year? Well, in 3.24, you can buy individual seats, such as this Drake-style seat, and you can then snap them into the cargo grid of any ship that has a cargo grid. And once snapped into the cargo ship, they will stay in place and, more importantly, still be able to be sat in to not be thrown about by G-forces. This means that any ship with a cargo grid can be turned into a troop transport. But could it also be used as a dropship replacement for a fraction of the cost, making for a lot better bang for your buck since dropship prices are pretty steep compared to cargo ships? So, bottom line, is such an ad hoc dropship conversion as good as a dropship? No, but is it a good enough dropship? That, depending on how often you need a dropship and how you use it, is a much different answer. And before I get into that, let's set up a few different examples and talk about them. First, the Avenger Hoplite. One thing I was surprised to find was that, for some reason, on the Avenger the seats do not snap to the cargo grid. This means that placing them neatly along the walls was hard. Nonetheless, I was able to put 4 along each wall, leaving a central aisle for exit and entrance out of the ramp. Then I took it out for a simulated assault run and found that the chairs were not thrown about by G-forces. So the not snapping them to the grid, which I regarded as a bug, was only a minor inconvenience. Now I'm sure that some of you are thinking, why didn't I try to squeeze more than 8 seats? I certainly could, but easy entrance and exit from a dropship is a primary feature. And as was the common complaint about the Cutlass Steel, you don't want to put all your eggs in one dropship basket, which is why you will rarely, if ever, see the Valkyrie with every drop seat occupied. 8 persons is 2 4-person fire teams and a good unit size for the purpose you might want to use the Avenger for. One example would be to, hopefully unnoticed, drop a small team at the opponent's rear to complete an encirclement and cut off retreat. So, in none of these examples will I try to cram every possible seat into a dropship conversion. The second example is the Cutlass Tin, which starts as a Cutlass Black, which already comes with 6 fold-out seats near the rear ramp. I added the same 8 seats with a combination of grid-snapped and loosely placed seats near the front, so that those troops can exit quickly through the side doors. Toss in the turret seat and the co-pilot seat, and you can deploy 16 soldiers, 4 teams of 4, plus have a small area for vehicles. My next example is the Freelancer DRP. I decided to use the Max as the starting point, but any of the others could also serve. In 3.24 with manual cargo loading, the freelancers have a problem, and that is that the middle section is almost impossible to manually load and has never been any good for vehicles. So I thought that made it the obvious place to put the seats and leave the entire rear section for vehicles. So imagine backing an Ursa Rover into the back, perhaps also with a Cyclone, and then being able to just go right from the jump seat area into the vehicle. I put 6 jump seats in the midsection, 4 grid snapped and 2 free placed, in addition to the 3 extra seats on the bridge, and the rear turret and the DRP could reasonably deploy 10 soldiers. It feels suited for a vehicle-focused deployment. The fourth example is the Crusader A1 Spirit. 9 seats can be grid snapped against each wall and still leaving a huge area in the middle and the vestibule area for vehicles. This makes for quite a substantial drop payload. In fact, about as much as I would want to have in any single jump ship anyway. And that's where I'm going to stop with the examples, because sure, you might create some sort of a Caterpillar conversion with many dozens of troops and vehicles, but that is a poor assault strategy to create a single point to concentrate all the other side's defensive fire on. You want to take several assault lines simultaneously to give the defenders a lot to worry about. Which returns me to the question, are these ad hoc dropships as good as a specialized dropship? No, and that is because all of the special purpose dropships have more damage dealing and damage taking capacity. They are tough militarized ships and not just a bunch of seats and storage. But are these good enough? Well, that depends on how often you need a dropship and how you will use it when you do. One way to use a dropship is as an assault ship. You take the ship right into the heart of the battle, defeat the opposition with the dropship itself, and then deploy troops for cleanup and holding the area. For this tactical plan, the extra firepower and protection of a ship like the Valkyrie are essential. The other approach, though, is to treat the dropship as a deployment vehicle, landing just outside of the active battle zone to deploy the troops and vehicles for an assault, and then withdraw to provide reconnaissance, air cover, and to be ready for an extraction. This puts less of a priority on the offensive capability of the dropship, so a converted cargo ship might be sufficient. So that's the thing to think about when the IAE rolls around in a few weeks. How much do you use your dropships, and how do you use them when you do? Because maybe this is the year to use that fleet value for something else. And now for an update on our giveaways. To start with, we have the special membership level to cover costs of doing live coverage of CitizenCon with its own giveaway for Hull C, that colossal cargo container carrying craft. And although I am still expecting and have even purchased the airfare to make the trip to Manchester, the giveaway will still happen, even if, for completely unexpected reasons, the live coverage has to be somehow done remote. Plus, we have our regular Grow the Channel ship giveaway for the Zippy Zazzy's Active Zephyr, the Zeus 2 cargo, which we are just waiting for the subscriber goal for, as well as the marvelous multiplayer mining meta, the Arasta. 1 entry per video. Be a member for automatic entry with each video, or subscribe and comment, somehow including a secret word. And the secret word for this video is any of the names for my ad hoc dropships. Fly safe, keep it real, and I'll see you in the verse. This is Danny Raymond for Ray's Guide.